So, I don't really have a plan for this one, he said, lying to the camera. I don't have a script. I still don't know what I'm doing. And I probably should have tested to see if the microphone issue is still going to be an issue. Tori, you're right. Mom, you're wrong. There is a problem with the built-in bullshit, but I don't know where it's coming from. And I haven't figured out how to get stuff delivered to me just yet. But the most common questions that I have been getting are in regards to the presentations that I just did for the school, the very strange pictures that I've been posting. And food has been a topic again. So I received a sort of a request. So pretend like we're on a date. I have a sampling of street foods that I'm going to be enjoying along with my Qingdao. I'll probably jump back and forth between food topics and the presentation topics. Should have made like a point form cheat sheet, fake script timeline to keep my shit on par. I don't know. I thought I came to China to teach. I got a job with a school. Through a funny turn of events, I ended up being a half PE teacher and half English teacher, and it was my mom who pointed out the really interesting detail. Gym class and language classes, specifically French class, but like the second language, were my two least favorite classes through, I guess, middle school. Primary, it was whatever, but like Southwood and high school, I hated all of PE until I found outdoor ed. And as much as I identify as French and love my connection to that culture, holy shit, once I got to Southwood, those classes were not my favorite. I did not enjoy them at all. And so Mom pointed out to me that it's interesting that those are the two that I am the most involved with now. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It has been theorized that maybe I'm trying to recapture, in the same way that being so involved with York after my, physical maturity into genuine adulthood with a real job. But I had always felt that those first few years were wasted. So getting involved with McLaughlin College, again, jumping back into council, being involved with all those frosh weeks all over again, was kind of like rewriting the history and letting go of those earliest years that were, first year forgiveness did it away. So maybe I'm kind of doing that. I'm rewriting the narrative of what PE and language means to me by being the teacher that I wish that I'd had, by being able to explain things in a way so I better understand what I'm doing. And they've said, yes, you're an English teacher, but for grade 1, you only have one job: make learning another language fun. You're not here to drill them. You're not testing them. You're definitely not sending them home with 50 pages of punishment homework because they didn't do perfectly, Mr. Glowy. And so that just, I don't know, Mom's talking to me about stuff like that, and I realized maybe that's what I am doing. So I thought I got here to talk about language, and the school, when they saw my resume, when they saw Dynamax, when they saw all of the effort that I've put into that world, and not just working at training and mentoring staff with the job that I've just abandoned violently because fuck York, but also the time that I've spent talking to people one-on-one about fitness. I'd like to think that they found my Instagram and were blown away. But they said, no, we have to have this guy as a PE teacher. So at first I resisted because that's not why I came here, but when they offered me a half and half, my mornings are all grade 1 English and my afternoons are all grade 7 PE. I thought that actually sounds like a really nice split to my day. I can spend all morning in my fancy Aldo shoes and my polos, and then lunchtime I get changed. I go have my private workout at the teachers only gym, and then I spend the rest of the day outside, whether I'm running laps with the kids or, like running 50-person HIIT workouts followed by, like whatever that week's topic is. So that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I, get settled, and they're like, by the way, this cultural presentations festival's coming up. And traditionally, the foreign teachers, while you were not obligated to do anything, they always do a presentation. So I thought, sure, I could participate in something like that. And so they asked me to dance. And I didn't want to dance. So I said no dancing. Meat stick number one, how do the famous people do it? Meat stick number one is long and skinny. It seems like chicken, but it might be lamb, it might be something else. It's nicely spiced. It's the most awkward to eat because it's the skinniest meat over the longest stick. I feel like it's lamb. It's my second favorite of the meat sticks. So I said no dancing. Now, I work for a company, and they, I believe the term is pimp. They pimp us out to schools. And so I then interview with the school, and I interview the school themselves, and if it's a good match, then that's the school I work for. I particularly liked this school after the interview, after the follow-up interview, so that's who I ended up with. I don't have to do anything other than teach my 16 classes with a small asterisk of things like open classes where I'm evaluated by the department heads, once a semester and blah, blah, blah. But in terms of anything like this, the school can make their own teachers do that kind of thing, but they can't compel any of us to do anything extra. That said, the company wants us to volunteer to do all of these things because it's better for relationship building. And I, the people pleaser that I am, saw this as an opportunity to build my relationship with the school. And I've got different reasons for specifically wanting to do that. But I talked to the other foreign teachers, and they were all just sort of like, either I'm too nervous to do something like this, I don't want to get up on stage, because this is in front of a huge auditorium filled with the parents of the students, members of the Bureau of Education, a couple of news outlets, and that it is live streamed on the internet. I never got any links. I've had several of the unofficial recordings shared. I haven't seen the final presentation product yet. It's a tiny bit marketing in that they get to say, look at the quality of students that we're producing, and then also, hey, check out the foreign teachers. We have more than one. We have 4. It would be worth sending your kids here. And it is a public school, but I imagine it's a the government gives them money per student or something. So either way, they want to get more students going. But so I took this group, and despite the fact that I am not but a humble people pleaser in a faraway land, I had an idea, because they had said to me, okay, well, Matthew, maybe the girls dance, but maybe you do a sport thing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Get everyone to get up and do a training session? Am I going to actually train 3 people? No, that doesn't make sense. But I had this idea for a skit where I'm the PE teacher and the other foreign teachers all play students, and they start out as naughty students, where I'm also, they all use the word naughty. I'm uncomfortable with it, but it has just become the word Nobody says bad student. Nobody says anything else. It's just good students and naughty students. So that's the word they use. And so I thought my other 3 teachers, they could play the naughty students where, I'm trying to get them to do jumping jacks. And so I go up to the one, and like one doesn't. So I run up to that one. And while I'm focusing on that one, trying to motivate one person to do jumping jacks, now that one pulls out their phone. So I'm like, okay, well, you're doing them. So now I run over to the phone. I'm like, put your phone away, put your phone away. And now the other one is doing something entirely different. So by the time they're good, I run over there. And that was the whole idea. I thought the thing that I liked about this is technically we could improv the whole thing. Once we understood the idea, no problem at all. Because the formula could be redone in any order, it doesn't matter. And with my classes of 50 students, I literally do this all class, every class. It's just too hard to keep an eye on absolutely everyone. And while I have extra help, I don't have as much extra help as I might like to have. And so the original idea was mostly well received by my co-teachers, but it was still a complicated idea of, well, what else do you want? So I was trying to ask the school repeatedly, what do you want from us? What is the point of the presentation? What is the goal? Can I see an actual past presentation? And they showed me like a slideshow of a previous one that did not help me at all. Food stick number 2. At first glance, it's just a hot dog that has been cut before it has been grilled. I don't think it's actually a hot dog the way I know it. It is interesting. I think 1, 2, 3, this will be my 3rd favorite of 5. I only have 4 of the 5. It has a different texture and definitely a different taste than your typical hot dog. It's just as simple as a hot dog, but it's different. Over the next few days, people in Canada are going to watch me eat hot dogs. I think that's funny. It's the most neutral, but it has like a hot dog-ness that is enjoyable. So I talked to one of the company guys who is a teacher but also has a couple of leadership roles within the company. And I said, for costuming, I'd like to get, because the school offered to pay for everyone's costumes. So I had already ordered my shirt that says Teacher Matthew in Chinese on the back. And I had asked if they could order adult-sized school uniforms of like the junior high, because they make them quite large. And he promised me yes. And as we got closer, I asked if he could, give me the contact information, and he was like, oh, we did it once, but the guy who ordered it is long gone. We don't know where he ordered it from. So now we're like, well, I guess just wear athletic gear. And it turns out that none of the 3 of them had like a full, like sweatpants, whatever athletic-y top, running shoes that looked the part. And so I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. At the same time, the school asks for the PPT, and holy shit, if I hear PPT one more time. For those of you who don't know, a .ppt file is a PowerPoint presentation file, but in Shenzhen or China or whatever, that word PPT is used to mean any kind of presentation. And so what they wanted was like a high-tech video in the background behind us on this huge, huge, huge screen that would, be the live background for us. And lucky for me, one of the other foreign teachers is getting into like tech wizardry, and so he's like, leave it up to me, I'll take care of it. But I feel like maybe he bit off more than he could chew. He ended up putting between 20 and 25 hours of work into this, and what he made was brilliant. But Lee, if you ever see this, I loved it, but you need to get more sleep, man. So it was amazing, but every time that we showed it to them, they would say, ooh, we like it, but this one little detail, and we're like, yeah, it's not like a PowerPoint presentation where you can just pull out a slide and pull out a new one. This is a whole thing that you asked for. So that was going on. Then they wanted to know how often we'd practiced. We had not practiced at all. And as we got closer, we realized, okay, we should probably put some actual time into this. While that's going on, another random teacher reaches out and says, hey, do you guys mind helping out with poetry recital? So we're like, what do you need from us? She's like, oh, just stand up with the kids, read off of your phone, read 8 lines. It's almost nothing. And we're like, okay. So we go and we read, and she's like, amazing, you did so good. In the classroom, she's like, do you think you can have it memorized by the day of the official presentation? We're like, what official presentation? And she's like, oh, it's just a little thing in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, yeah, I could learn 8 lines. Turns out that the presentation of the first time was a competition between all of the grade 4 classes. And so this teacher knew that when all 8 classes were, one after another, she picked a very old, early 1900s famous Chinese dude, studied economics and politics in the States, then went to Cambridge where he studied poetry, which blew his mind. And so he became a poet but wanted to bring what he'd learned of Western poetry back to China. And so this poem was called Leaving Cambridge Again, I believe. Very, very famous here. And it's sort of one of those things where if you want to appeal to the people of China, the respectable old, this is the one you go with. And if you can take advantage of a marketing opportunity and throw up a few foreign teachers, you win. So she won. Not because I read the poem worth a damn, but I think because she has a very good mind for what the judges would want. But that meant that after that big presentation, when we're sitting on the side watching, and I'm like, I don't speak almost any Chinese, like literally almost nothing, but I could figure out the numbers, and I was like, oh, this is a 3rd place, 2nd place. I'm like, hey, if we win, is that shitty? Like, is it unfair if her class wins because we were there with her? And she got 1st place with 140 points, and the 2nd place, a new good friend of mine, got 139.7. So she lost by 0.3 points. I have complicated feelings about that, but whatever. Winning meant that we then got to do it again on the day of the big presentation, which was what we were supposed to have been prioritizing this whole friggin' time. So by now the poem is stuck in my head forever, which sucks because it was a terrible translation. I found one that they should have done by a guy named Deshawn that all of China knows and I'd never heard of. But he has a translation from other people, which is gorgeous. It doesn't use the word sludge anywhere in it. But so the recital, the dress rehearsals goes well, the competition goes well, and we win. And as we get closer, we actually get some good practice in, and we start tweaking little things. So we start to actually develop a bit of a script. We know who's going to be fucking around at what time. Lee's video is brilliant. He edits in a little thing so that it looks like when he runs up to the screen, it looks like he's spray painting like a smiley face on the screen, which is inspired by stuff that has happened in the class with, like their, weird technology. And it's brilliant. It's perfect. We start to have an actual thing. And then the school is like, oh, well, we don't like that detail. Can you not do that? And then they're like, oh, we don't want the naughty students to play with their phones. And I'm like, but isn't that, like, you don't want that because you don't want the students to do that. Doesn't that make it the perfect thing for the naughty students to do? So this turns into a whole thing. And then I ask a new friend of mine if I can use his awesome track. If you guys haven't heard of Alex Cade, check him out. He's on Instagram, TikTok, and I assume YouTube. And he gives me permission to use his track as my like background, super intense dubstep inspired, chaos. But then it doesn't work in the video, so they just pull some shit that is also available, which worked really well, but I really wanted his song. And then at 8:44, the day before the presentation, I get a WeChat message. Tomorrow, bring white shoes. 8:44 p.m. when my bedtime is usually 10:30. So I'm like, okay, so I've got my like third generation project rock all white. I happen to have those, but what if I didn't? I'd have like my crappy blue Nike running shoes, my black Aldo dress shoes, my black and white Converse, and my, what are those boots that Sajith wears all the time? I won't know. What are they called? Chelsea's from Matt and Nat, and like flip-flop. I'm like, where would I go to buy fucking white shoes at 9 p.m.? So that turned into a whole thing. And then we all got very little sleep. We did a whole bunch of rehearsals first thing in the morning, which meant I needed to be in the sport gear. But then I had to get changed so I could teach in my collared shirt and pants, which is required. Then get changed again for further dress rehearsals. Get changed again to do the poetry reading, get changed again to actually do the performance. And then when all that was done, I still had to go teach classes. They'd only canceled 2 classes in their early afternoon, and the rest of junior high still had to go do their thing. I did let one of them off the hook. Forgive me, I'm going to blow my nose, because they had performed. But that meant that I was still teaching classes while the primaries were off having their festival. And so that was a whole shebang. Whatever you're thinking, I agree. So this is my least favorite of the ones that I have. I'm not even sure if it's like a hot dog. It's the most common one that is sold. All the other ones, I got 3. This one only got 1. So you could watch me eat it. It's not bad. It's just not my favorite at all. And I have 3 that I quite like. So I usually get 3 of the ones that I like. I only get this one when I'm like, I want to change. It's an odd one. The meat itself is pretty pale. And it's got enough texture that it's clearly not a hot dog, but I also don't know what it is. I'm saving my favorite for last. So that presentation was a whole thing. I think they told me about it the second week of teaching, which meant we had 4 weeks to talk about it. The only complaint that we had is I wished can't speak for anyone else. I wished I had had more information about what the school wanted, like right up on day one. Like, if you're willing to participate, here's what we want. But it felt like it might have been a little bit of a trying to make it seem smaller. And then the closer we got, the more they explained about what they actually wanted. And that's definitely what happened with the poem. I thought the poem was going to be like a little, do it in front of the class, like with the class once, and then maybe do like a small thing. I didn't realize how big it was going to be. And it's not that I wouldn't have participated if I had known the full scope of what was asked for, but I can appreciate that some people might not have wanted to participate. It is what it is. All right, I gotta eat these while they're still hot and ready. Oh, I didn't do the last one. All right, this is my favorite. So this monster. I see girls do this all the time with makeup. I don't know if it's supposed to like autofocus better, or to be fair, I gave Richard my circle light before I came because I wasn't going to be able to fit it. I know that would help my lighting a lot, except there's nowhere to put it. This is the closest to like a real sausage. It's good. It's good. I think it has the highest fat content, but it feels like real meat, where some of the other ones have that like hot dogginess. So, the presentation's done, the poetry recital's done. Theoretically, it's life back to normal, but I have an open class, which is evaluated by the department heads on Thursday. And interestingly, they don't want me doing that with English. They want me doing that with PE. And I'm bringing to those classes everything that I've learned from my Good Life personal trainers, from my online coach, physiconomics, I don't fucking know, from Adam. And he was the single most useful person out of all of the paid help that I ever received. I'm wearing pants. I'm just getting comfy. And everything that I learned experientially through the one-on-one coaching that I did with Dynamax, converting it to 50 people classes, 50-person classes of like 14-year-olds, and doing the best that I can. And I am told that my classes are very well enjoyed. The only complaints that I get complaints are from the people who just don't want to participate, the naughty students. And it annoys me because some of them are, like would be, goddamn track stars if they applied themselves. But instead they want to goof off, and I'm just like, how do I motivate someone like that? And I had pretty good success motivating people case by case. And like some people, I would have to re-motivate twice a week for months, but I could do that, and I did it for free. I took my time, and I was able to talk about time and effort. I was able to talk about how motivation isn't something that you find, it's something that you cultivate, it's something that you build, that you grow with intent. I was able to talk about how the kind of fitness that I like to participate in isn't just to make us sexy, but to make us strong and powerful and productive, and how when I pick the kinds of things that I want to do, the reasons why I like running and biking is because they're not just fitness, they're also skills. And, like everyone should be able to do one pull-up. If you can't do one pull-up, That's a shitty way to die. There are a dozen ways that a pull-up will save your life. If you've fallen over the side of a boat and you can't climb back in, if you've got the edge but you can't, and then over, you're dead eventually. If you're being chased by a racist cop and you got to get over that fence, you got to be able to do one pull-up. So there's all these reasons why a pull-up is this hugely valuable thing. And I don't fucking speak Chinese. So I do what I can, but it's just like I knew this was going to be a difficult thing, and the school leadership, the company, they're all like, well, just show them what you want them to do and do it. And I'm like, I'm bringing more to the table, but I can't share. I can show you how to do a squat jump. I can show you how to do squat jacks. I can show you how to do exploding lunges. I can set a fucking timer and hit beep, and then I can hit beep. But it's difficult for me to talk about the nuanced ideas of how everything boils down to time and effort when I can't explain those ideas. So for the open class, they've said that one of the things, like when I've watched all the other teachers practice and perform theirs, it seems to very much be about coaching the students, not just on fitness itself, but also on ideas of leadership and coaching and getting them started on that. So each class has at least one student leader, and they recommend that you really take advantage of that resource in the class. I can't talk to them very well. Once in a while, when they're all in their lines, I have to just say best English, and one or two will either run up or be shoved up as the students who seem to have the highest English skills. And in half the classes, that's all I need. I tell them what I want, and then I communicate with my enthusiasm to the class, so they see me talking to the class, and then they translate as necessary. The other half, that's not good enough. So for the open class, it's really just me trying to share with them knowledge in the most organized, productive way, but I'm not taking advantage of the resource that is student leadership itself. That said, so far it's going well enough that they've also asked me to come in for some overtime on a weekend so they can film a commercial of me teaching a grade 6 class for 20 minutes. So they're willing to pay for the overtime and for all the other stuff. And I'm starting to feel a little bit like a dancing monkey, where it's just like, foreign teacher, go, do your thing. But my ego also loves it. So like, so I'm going to happily do that. But like, it's a 20-minute class. It's just there to look at. It's not there to do anything. So that's life returning to normal. It doesn't seem like there ever is a normal. Then I just got the holiday schedule for the next couple of months, so I get one day off on a Monday for the Tomb Sweeping Festival, which sounds like the most badass festival I've ever heard. It's a 3-day festival, so I get Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. But then a month later, Labor Day, Chinese Labor Day comes, and that's a 5-day festival, which means I get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. But for those 4 days off, I have to come in on a random Saturday and then a random Sunday. Not random, like it looks random. And that seems to be the thing with Chinese holidays. My uneducated but thoughtful interpretation in Canada, I have to blow my nose again. Where is off screen? Oh, that's a good one. So my interpretation is that in Canada, maybe North America, in Canada, the value is on time off such that you can spend that time with your loved ones, with your partner, your family, whatever it is you want. I don't think the significance is given to the holiday itself. So we get a day off for Thanksgiving and I spend it with my family. We get time off for Easter and I spend it with my family. I don't really care about the holiday itself, insofar that I don't believe in holy days. It seems here, though, sorry, and so you don't have to make up for any of those days because the priority is spending time with your family. So if you have to make up for it, you then lose time with your family. That doesn't seem to be the goal. The goal is time. Whereas here, it feels, again, uneducated but thoughtful interpretation, it feels like the goal is to truly respect the day, which means if you get 4 days off, you might have to come in on the weekends for 2 days to make up for some of that lost time, because the goal isn't necessarily to have more free time. The goal is to respect the idea being presented, which I think is interesting, but I also don't want to come in on a Saturday or a Sunday. So it feels 4 days off, but coming in for 2 days, I get 2 days off. It doesn't change anything for me in terms of pay or whatever. But then I'm like, well, it's class. Like, what are the, if I'm losing 4 days, which classes am I teaching? Like, if I lose 2 Mondays, so I'm hoping I'm making up for a Monday, but then I'm losing a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Well, Wednesday I only have 2 classes and Tuesday I have 5. So for me, selfishly, I hope that I'm making up the Tuesday, but I don't know, like that's just the form teacher schedule. So yeah, this is what life normal is like when the presentations are done. It's, what are the extra classes I'm coming in for? What's this? What's that? At the same time, I'm dabbling in freelance supply teaching. My contract says that I'm not allowed to do that unless I have permission from the school, but I asked about it in the interview, and I asked with such intensity that they scheduled a second interview so that I could interview them. And I was asking, like, well, what is the true meaning of this detail? And they're like, it's there so that if you're teaching on the side like 20 hours and you're exhausted and you can't function, then we have the power to tell you, fucking drop it and focus on your classes here. And I'm like, cool. So if I want to tutor someone on the side, I need to ask you for help? And they're like, no, do your thing, live your life, but we have the power, if your performance drops, to come at you. And I'm like, I wish you would use those words, but I get it. It's like the sign at Tim Hortons that says you can't sit for more than 20 minutes, but I would go on like a Thursday night at like 9 p.m. and I'd sit there for 3 hours with my friends drinking French vanilla after French vanilla after French vanilla. Nobody kicked us out, but during peak hours, they would 100% kick us the fuck out. So I'm seeing it that way. So a friend of a friend needed her class covered, so my friend said, hey, I would cover it, but I'm already tutoring someone. Do you want to make a pile of money for a few hours of work? And I was like, I mean, I'd rather sleep in, but I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this could be fun. And then she reminded me, you're going to want to start networking before the summer hits if you want to be able to pick up classes, whether you work at a language camp or just do some private tutoring. But you will probably get more access to that through things like the language schools. So I thought, okay, sure. So I wasn't quite over my cold yet, just a cold. But I thought, sure. So I went to bed early, got a good night's sleep, took some of the funny medicine that I was given, felt like $1 million, and went in and did a 2-hour and 20-minute 3-segment class, full grade 4, but of like an advanced English. And so it was 8 students, and what I didn't expect was that the school contact just sat there and never left. And in the back of the class, about half the students had their parents hanging out. So that was interesting. But the first student comes in and he's super enthusiastic. Oh, hello, teacher. My name is Eric. I'm like, no way. My brother's name is Eric. That's cool. So we start talking, and the other students, trickle in, and all they have for me is like an online PDF of the, like an interactive PDF of the textbook. And she's like, just review the last 2 pages, do the next 4 pages. If you have time left over, if you want to do like a totally ad-libbed presentation on Canada or anything, whatever you want to do, or you can just have them take turns reading paragraphs from one of the 1,000 stories we have on the drive. And I was like, well, this is super chill, but okay. So I took my time with the pages and really milked it and got extra practice and extra time. And there's a whole thing on firefighters. So I was able to talk about emergency responders and get into interesting nuances. but in a way that is thoughtful and helpful to the students. And once in a while, I would, if I'm trying to engage, I would also ask like the moms at the back. And so one of the side bits that the original teacher had said was that she was, what are the words called? Oh my God, what is it called? And I call myself a language teacher. When words mean a thing, but not in the way that you think. It's only when you put them in order that they mean a thing. I so badly want to remember the word that I'm going to look it up right now. But she said, I teach one per class, and I've missed a couple, so do you mind doing a couple of your own? And I was like, yeah. And the word I'm looking for is... Jesus, Matthew, be better. Idioms. An idiom. So she wanted me to teach getting out of hand and time flying. And she's like, but I need you to come up with one. So I taught those ones, and the one that I came up with was cutting corners. And so like getting out of hand was really fun. Because I was able to talk about things, like if you've got your pet, your dog, you're taking your dog for a walk and you've got the leash in your hand, and then they start acting rowdy and they run off, the leash isn't in your hand anymore. They have gotten out of hand. So like what other things could you talk about? And one of the girls whose mom is sitting in the back talked about how when her mom goes shopping and spends too much money and comes home and her dad gets upset. And I was like, yeah, because she had the money in her hand and now she doesn't anymore. Your mom got out of hand. And the mom's sitting at the back like, you motherfucker, I'm going to talk to you when I get home. And then time flying was great because I talked about how when you're in that moment, when you're in the zone, what's that word that mom likes? When you're in the flow, when you're flowing, you don't notice the time going by. So that was an easy engagement with like, and you, what kinds of activities do you like to do that makes time fly? So people got to talk about the things that they liked. And the one guy was like, I like playing video games. And I was like, cool, what games do you like? And he's like, well, you wouldn't know the name. And I was like, I know, motherfucker, but the rest of the kids would. And I asked them if any of them played League of Legends, and they looked at me crazy. I'm like, of course, that's not what it's called here. So I drew Summoner's Rift on the whiteboard, like the map, and like it's super simple, and they didn't get it. And then I started drawing the lanes, and then when I was drawing Baron Nashor, the one guy was like, oh my God, so when you translate it, it's called League of Heroes, but even then they don't call, like it's got a Chinese name. So that was a whole thing. And for cutting corners, I was able to explain, why it means what it means, but why it might have a negative connotation, and why it can mean things like, cheating or trying to do less of a full job. And I talked about when I got off the school bus in Ajax, and on my way home, I walked across the lawn. So instead of going on a nice clean line up and then turning right and then, and then going home, I cut the corner and I walked across his grass. And the guy who's like standing on his porch that I didn't see was angry, and he followed me all the fucking way home, saying like, oh, I want to talk to you. I was like, no, I don't have time. I have to go home. And Mom, I don't know if you'll remember that, but we did talk about it a lot when I got home. Dad was very proud of my thought, like, no, I can't, I don't have time. I have to go home. I have to be there. And so I was like, not that any of you would ever cut corners, but can you think of a way that somebody might? And so they talked about, like not completing your homework fully, trying to make it look like it's done, and other stuff. So all that was great and fun. And then at the end, the teacher / company woman who was there observing offered me a job on the spot, like a part-time continuing. She's like, I know you have a full-time gig, but would you like to work for me? And I was like, no. I just want to supply, I'm not here to like make a ton of money and send it home. I'm here to enjoy the life that I'm living. I really want to do some traveling when that opens up a little bit. I want to go north and see the Great Wall. I'd like to go to the other complicated places. I want to see Hong Kong. I want to see Macau. I want to get on the train and go into Russia. I want to get on the train and go into Vietnam. I can't do any of those things now. But so I'm dabbling, but I don't want to commit to a job, like that's extra. But if it's here, there, absolutely. Also, that was like an hour and 5 minutes by double subway, and when I buy my scooter next week, that'll reduce the time nicely, but it won't necessarily make it like I don't want to be commuting that much for a 2 hour and 20-minute gig. Like just for the strict in class, it ended up converting to about $60 an hour. But when you factor in the travel time, it ended up being $30 an hour. So fine, I got to read my book and listen to my music on the way there and back. But when the travel is that long, if it's just going to be for one class, it doesn't have the same. But she said that they do have schools that are a lot closer. So I'm toying with the idea of what I can do there. So for the weekend coming up, she said, hey, if you have some availability, we have like 4 or 5 classes that need to be covered. So I was like, cool. Well, when you have information, let me know and I'll book you in. Like I'll avoid making plans until that time. So speaking of the scooter, I am so excited about the scooter. So a couple of weeks ago, Jun, my PE co-teacher, he is, not that I'm playing favorites, but he's my favorite of the Chinese teachers. We have become bros. I'd like to invite him hiking so that I can go see some stuff and not just be hanging with expats all the time. But so he asked me if I have any interest in buying a scooter, and I was like, fuck yeah. I've just been kind of waiting, and like the bus is fine. Once I'm on it, I'm okay. I just don't like waiting for the bus. And as much as I was whining about, taking a bus and not a subway to work, holy shit, the subway is chaos, and the bus is, at least it's easy. But despite the coming monsoon rains intermittently, I'm still very excited about the scooter. So after school one day, I hop on his scooter and we ride over, and he's good friends with the shop owner. He doesn't get a referral fee, but he got his scooter there, and I imagine he got a good deal for it. And so this is the first place that he brings foreign teachers who want to buy a bike. So he's brought a few over the years, and I have learned that the main laws that are important: wear a helmet, gotcha, don't want to die. Don't ride on the roads, ride on the sidewalk. That is a law. Here, the road is for cars. The sidewalk is for pedestrians, bicyclists, and scooter mabobs. You can get ticketed for riding a scooter on the road. So very different from Canada, where it's completely the opposite. And 3, register your goddamn bike. And so as long as the scooter has pedals technically, and even the big beefy ones like the one I'm getting have pedals, pedals under, I think it's 400 volts or 48 watts. So the one I'm getting is 60 watts. So it's not any faster, but it'll go farther if I'm getting those numbers right. But it's still only 400 volts, which means it's not fast. And so then, and the third thing is that it's limited to 25 kilometers an hour, and then there's a weight restriction. As long as it meets those things, it counts as a bicycle that can travel 65 kilometers at a rate of 25 kilometers an hour, which means I don't have to have a special license. I just have to register it with the Bureau of Transportation. Then they mail me a license plate that I put on the back, and then I'm good to go. So far, 100% of the expats that I've talked to didn't bother getting it registered. None of them have gotten pulled over. None of them have dealt with anything. But if you do get pulled over, technically it's a 2,000 yuan fine, and they can take the bike. They can just straight up take it. And everyone's telling me, oh, don't worry about it. The cops don't want to deal with the paperwork of going after foreigners. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to push my luck, so I feel like I might just do it the right way and not fuck around. I think there's a lot to be said for following as many of the rules as you can, as often as you can. And then the advice that I was given by someone who's done a lot of traveling is, unless it's incredibly inconvenient, follow all of the rules, even the ones that you think are a little weird. So I'll wear the helmet all the time, and especially when I'm like downtown where there are traffic cops everywhere, I'll stay on the sidewalk. Once I'm out in the boonies, like near the school itself, I'm going to be on the road because there's hardly any cars and the sidewalks are all like full of, kids going to school. So I'm going to do like a risk assessment at the time, and I'm going to do what is the most safe at the time. But if the registering is a $2,000 fine and I don't want to get fucked and have a $650 bike taken away from me, then I'll just go get the free registration done. Normally the shop owner would do it, but he looked at my registration card, which is in my passport. So my work permit and my registration, my residence permit. My work permit and my residence permit are just like almost full page stickers, put in all the red stamps, super officially done, reflective and all. And he looked at my passport, he's like, this isn't it. And he pulled out his, and I was like, yeah, but dude, you're Chinese. You get the like Chinese national one. I'm a foreigner. This is what I get. It says residence permit on it. And he was just like, I can't do anything with this. And I'm like, well, then I'll fucking do it myself. It could be a huge waste of time, but just for keeping me happy, it just seems like a simple thing to get done, and then I have it. And then when I eventually leave, I'll sell the bike, but I'll take my license plate with me, and that will be a keepsake that I'll have. But it'll cut my 35, the moon looks really cool right now. It'll cut my 35-minute bus commute plus like up to 15 minutes waiting on the sidewalk. So up to 50 minutes, like up to almost an hour depending. It'll cut that down pretty consistently to 20 to 25 minutes depending on how hectic the pedestrians are for the first 5 minutes. Once I'm 5 minutes out, I'm just flying at 25 kilometers an hour or less. And then little things like I want to go hiking at Wutong Mountain. That's, oh man, it's like a super harvesty moon and super, super full moon. And that's like an hour and 15 minutes, 2 subways and like a little bit of walking, or I can hop on the bike. I can just ride it to that final subway area, lock it up there, charge it while I'm going up the mountain. By the time I come back, it's 4 hours up, 2 hours down, it's back to a full charge. And instead of an hour and 20 minutes, it's, I think, 35 minutes. And I don't know, I just love the idea of having that kind of access to freedom, and just the like 5-minute ride the 5-minute ride to the shop where we went on just reminded me of how much I wanted like a motorcycle all those years. And as much as I loved riding the bike for Pact with the job, there's just something about turning the thing and flying that just made me happy. And he let me take it for a little ride to see, and I was like, immediately, my body knew how to make it work. There was no problems. But then I saw a cop and was like, nope, I'm going back. And the cop didn't give a shit that I was riding without a helmet on a side road, breaking 2 of the 3 laws. I don't know. I want to take that feeling of just flying in the breeze, and like a friend was like, why don't you just get one of these, tens of thousands of bicycles that you could rent for 2 yuan, which is like 40 cents, and get some exercise and this and that. I'm like, because when I get up, I put on my nice chinos and my polo and my dress shoes, and if it's a 30-minute bike ride to school, I'm going to be drenched, and my nice outfit is going to be gross. And if I wear my sporty stuff while I ride to school, I'm going to have to shower, put on the nice clothes, and then put on my damp, sweaty. Whereas even if it's kind of a muggy day, rather than standing in the mugginess, I get on my scooter and I make my own breeze as I fly. And that just, it's an experience I want to chase and enjoy and live in repeatedly. I don't know. It just makes me happy, the idea of all of it. All right, I'm not going to eat the whole thing. So these guys, I saw this for the first time. I think I got one vegetarian one and one meat one. Hey, remember I was vegan for half a decade? What a wild time. So far it's just dough. There is a filling. I think that, the fillings, I see the green with showing through the other side. I don't know what it is, but it's good. You know? Interestingly, another scooter-related detail, it is against the law to have a passenger over the age of 12. So if I brought my non-existent 10-year-old daughter, I don't have a 10-year-old daughter, she could sit in the scooter behind me or in front of me. And that's why in orientation they said when you see the guys with the longer scooters who will just ride up in front of like a bus stop, honk their, like beat their horn, and then pat the seat behind them, they're saying, come, we'll give you a lift, don't take them, they're illegal. But they didn't tell us why. And that's because it's just illegal for you to have more than one like person. You can't have two adults in a scooter. I looked online, I got the information, and then the joke was that people will ask the cops, well, why does my scooter have like a seat clearly for two? The cops are like, we don't care, you can't do that. But every day I see dozens and dozens of scooters with clearly like cute couples on a date, or like people carpooling on a scooter to work, or entire families where like it'll be mom and dad squeezed in, the son will be on the very back facing backwards, hugging the little backrest, and like the little daughter will be in between the father's legs in the front, standing, just kind of looking over the top on that little thing, and 4 people on the road, no helmets, just going off, but it's registered, so at least there's that. And the cops are just like, yeah, that's just people living their life. So I don't know if it's a matter of like, well, this is their only means, so why would we give them trouble? I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if it's like it's not worth following up. I don't know if there's quotas at the end of the month that get hit, and if they hit them, then they don't go out. Like, I don't know. I was just told if you're downtown in the busy corners where the traffic cops are like being traffic cops, don't mess around there. Yeah, so that's a detail. This is weird, but I would get it again. I don't know how I would ask for the meat one. I have to learn the word for meat. My protein intake has dropped since I've arrived. That steak last night was good. For the price, if I go back, I would just get 2 steaks. But I think that little, where I took myself on a steak dinner date, if you've seen on my Instagram, the appetizer was like a super thinly sliced ring of steak slices, and then an arugula and black truffle salad. And then the steak that I got was a 200 gram something black peppercorn and black truffle sauce dressing thing steak. I've never had black truffles. I've never had truffles before, and I was really curious. They're worth the hype. I didn't know that a mushroom could be that, but holy damn. Um, but those two in the beer came to, when I converted, about $45. So I would just get two steaks happily, um, as like a once a week treat or every couple of weeks. Um, and I might need to for my protein intake. Holy damn, we're at an hour. This is just starting to get good. So that's my update for now. I've been out of quarantine in mainland China for 5.5 weeks. I'm tired all the time. I go to bed at a ridiculous hour most days, and we're talking like between 9:30 and 10:30. I'm in bed, and I'm happy to be in bed. Because my body's exhausted, and then I'll get like 8.5 hours of sleep, and then I go have another huge day at school. But yeah, I'm loving it. I'm also missing, Ninja and family and friends. Um, but then I just look out my window and I'm just like, holy damn, you're in China, and back to the great adventure. So until next time, miss you all. Cheerio.